Hi everyone, it's Eli. You know how sometimes you stumble upon something truly game-changing in healthcare? Well, I found it. KinetiSense. This cutting-edge motion capture technology is transforming movement, assessment, and recovery. Imagine getting instant AI-driven insights without any wearables on your patient. That's right, no ping pong balls needed. Just pure, accurate data. Perfect for boosting athletic performance, pinpointing imbalances, and refining rehab. Top professionals worldwide trust KinetiSense to maximize productivity and results. Check out our partner page to learn more. Experience the revolution in movement. Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint in sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Halleck, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So, let's get started. Welcome today to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. We have a very awesome guest with a very unique background, and we are very excited to have her on the show today. And we will learn a lot from her and in all her different hats that she's worn over the years and things she's helped with the NHEA and the Latinx and her association or at the school she's working at. She's just a bundle of awesome. So we would like to welcome today to our podcast, Destiny Grove, the head athletic trainer of East St. Louis Senior High School through a company called Athletico. How you doing today, Destiny?
I'm doing great, Eli. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, we appreciate you being on. We found you, I'll be honest, we found you on LinkedIn. I know our producer read about you and went, "Oh, hell yeah, we got to have her on. This is awesome. She's awesome. Yeah, she does everything." Yeah. And I looked at him, dude, Gabe, of course, don't get too excited now. Let's just get her on first, and then we can get excited afterwards. So he's always excitable when he finds a unique guest. So thanks for agreeing to be on today.
Sure. No, it was great. When I saw the notification that he sent me a message, and sometimes on LinkedIn you get a lot of like scam or like spam,
Oh
like
yeah.
like paid up publish situations. And I was like, oh, okay, this one like seems different, unique. And I read it and I was like, oh yeah, no brainer, no brainer. So thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Thanks for being on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in athletic training, and how you ended up helping in so many different avenues in our profession to get to the point where you're at now?
This might take all our time. This one question.
Well, let's do the we used to call them cliff notes. I think they call them spark notes now. So the
The
abridged
brief.
version.
So I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, and the kind of town where everyone goes to one high school. There's like two primary schools, that kind of situation. And so growing up, I had this PE teacher, Mr. McNeil, and it wasn't until I got to the high school that I actually realized that Mr. McNeil was our athletic trainer. I had like known this man my entire life. Like I said, taught me PE pretty much from kindergarten through the eighth grade. And then I get to the high school and I see Mr. McNeil, and he's like, "Oh, Destiny, like I want you to meet someone." And he introduces me to a man named Stephen Popeye. And he's like, "I'm retired, but I still help out at the school. But Mr. Popeye is the athletic trainer here. I played two sports in high school, soccer and volleyball. And so he's like, I just want you to know that Mr. Popeye exists, and this is what he does, and this is how you can find him in that kind of situation." I was like, "Okay, thanks, Mr. McNeil." And really, I don't want to say like I had an unconventional path to athletic training, but I know that a lot of the common stories is like, oh, I got hurt, and that's how I met my athletic trainer and learned. But I really kind of had like knew Mr. Popeye from the day I started high school. Never really got hurt playing sports, but I just knew him. And then one year, my soccer coach actually taught our intro to sports medicine class, because at the time I was like, it's weird that Mr. Popeye is not teaching this. But now, as a secondary school athletic trainer, much too busy. So I
Just
understand
a
why.
couple things to do throughout the day, right?
Right.
Yep.
So my soccer coach taught it instead, but even though he taught the didactic piece, a part of the course was still shadowing Mr. Popeye in the afternoons. And so I worked with Mr. Popeye and did my student observations and fell in love with it. And it was really cool because we had Mr. Popeye, like he was our like active certified AT, had Mr. McNeil, who was a retired athletic trainer, and then we also usually had a student from a local AT program. And so it wasn't until I got to college and I started college in fall of 2013. And so access to ATs in the secondary school setting looks a little bit different now in 2025. But it wasn't until I got to college in 2013 that I realized I was in a very rare situation having that much access to athletic training as a care receiver or service receiver in the secondary school setting. And so I came in knowing a lot about athletic training. And I initially thought I might want to be a sports psychologist. And so I also did a second major in psychology in undergrad. But I realized more that AT is where my love and passion kind of lied. And so I pursued athletic training at UNC Chapel Hill. So I'm a Tar Heel. I graduated there in 2017 and then did my master's up in Philly, master's in kinesiology there, graduated in 2019. And then I've been at East St. Louis ever since.
So right out the gate, been at the same school since 2017. So coming up on 10 years.
So I started my master's in 2017, graduated in 2019, started East St. Louis in fall of 19.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So just under, just under. Got it.
Yeah. I would say
Um,
still there a very long time, it feels like.
hey. I'm coming on 28 years at the same place. So
Fun.
yeah, be careful. It goes by really fast. Yeah, no,
It does.
it's like a sprint. All of a sudden you blink your eyes, you're like, wait, 10 years. Next thing I knew, I'm 20. Next thing I know, they're looking at me. Congratulations on 25 years. I'm like, 25 years, what?
Right.
What are you talking
Right.
about? There's no way. Come on.
Right. Because even though I've only been certified since 2017, as part of our undergraduate program, our program director made us become NATA members as soon as we got accepted. And so I've actually been an NATA member since 2015. And I got my like little 10-year NATA membership thank you card. And I was like, this is wild. Like this.
So, would you like to hear a funny story?
Sure.
A couple years ago, I'm sitting here, I'm opening mail, and I look, and I got my 50-year pin. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not 50. I was barely, I think, 51. Like,
Yeah.
how the hell did I get 50? Man, I started when I was young. Okay. The NATA had done a little oops and send out the 50-year pin to all the 25 years. So
No.
I'm like, well, hopefully this is a good sign for the future. But
Right.
yeah, it's a little, it catch you off guard when you get that 10-year, 20-year, 25-year pin. It's like, wow, it went quick. I do have to ask, you mentioned back in high school,
Hmm.
you had Mr. Popeye, which, God, that's the coolest name in the world. Um, Mr. McNeil,
Hmm.
who was a retired AT, and you obviously had, or they were preceptors for the local university that
Hmm.
sent ATs to you guys. What local university was that?
UNC Pembroke.
Pembroke. All right. We are preceptors at our location,
Hmm.
and we think it's such a great and valuable way to help train the next generation ATs to get them at the high school and let them see, you know, the high schools are not just a stepping stone. They are a place that you can make an impact.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I love getting the AT students over there, and as they're initially coming in thinking, oh yeah, I'm never going to work at a high school. No. High schools are for 1 year, 2 year. Then you jump up to the bigs or Division One, and they find out it's healthcare where you really make a difference.
Oh yeah, because that's kind of what happened to me. When I first started at UNC, I wanted to work in the NFL. That was when like Sonia Giesland was at the Steelers, and it was pretty much like the only female AT in the NFL. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then I worked like a year and a half of Carolina football, Division I football, and I was like, actually, no, thank you. Um,
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I was like, no, thank you. Yeah, because I even remember my last semester there, we made it to the bowl game, and I even opted not to go to bowl. I was like, I'm actually very ready to be done with this. So I didn't even go to the bowl game with the team. I was like, no, I'm going to spend Christmas with my family. I was like, it's been Christmas in Detroit with all of y'all, or it's been Christmas at home. So
Yeah, tough one to figure out there. That's kind of one of the nice things about the high school setting. When you're done mentally, they're about done with season. So it's okay, on to the next. Come on, boys.
yeah,
Let's go out of the training room. Let's get the next group in.
exactly. But that was like the start of my rotations. I did football at the kind of like I said, the start of all of my rotations. And so pretty quickly I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to do this. So then what do I want to do? And so I think that actually allowed me to maximize the rest of my rotation choices because I really did intentionally try to get a little bit of everything. And I like to say at UNC, we have like our main athletic training facility, our sports medicine facility, but then there are some specific sports that have satellite facilities. And so I kind of actually was like, can I make it a goal to work at every satellite AT facility we have? And so that's kind of how I chose my rotations, but I ended up doing my high school rotation at a boarding school, the School of Science and Math. And so we saw all the student athletes, but because it was a boarding school, we also were kind of like the first base clinic for all student injuries, especially after hours after the nurse had gone home. And I had a phenomenal preceptor there, Mr. Michelle. And yeah, I fell in love with it because like you said, it's exactly where you can make an impact, it's where you can make a difference. I kind of look at athletic training, my personal philosophy, as like public health and community health, and it perfectly situates you in a community. And boarding schools are a little bit different, but especially in public schools or even private schools, but just non-boarding, non-application or admissions-based schools, you do get the chance to kind of care for an entire family. I had some students graduate last year, and at this point, I think I had three of this man's sons. And at the end of football season, he just came up, he said, thank you for taking care of my sons. He's like, it means the world to me. And I was just like, yeah, I guess I have done that. Like,
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
have been here for all three of them, and it was really nice.
Yeah, you get to really watch them grow and become who they're going to be. And you make
Right.
an impact at that point in their family and their life, and they'll remember you, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, because it is nice. They were all pretty close together, but I have a couple of other families where like one has already graduated and now I'm getting their siblings in the ninth grade and they're like, I remember you, and it's really nice.
I love your comment about athletic training kind of being a combination public health and community health, because that's true, especially at the high school level. There are
Mhm.
some institutions that you might be the only healthcare provider that they have access to.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree with you more. That's a very perfect comment about our profession, especially at the high school level. I would have to agree. Now, how did you, coming out of NC, find Athletico and get into doing everything that you're doing now with the NATA?
That's a great question. So I guess the story starts while I'm still at UNC. We had the most serendipitous experience happen. So I was there at UNC, and the District 3 representative to the NHTA Student Leadership Committee became vacant. And my program director at the time, Dr. Meredith Petschauer, Meredith kind of voluntold me. She's like, Destiny, um, I think you should do this, and I want you to apply for this. And I was like, okay, Meredith, like I'll do anything you say. So I applied, and it just worked out that I was able to get that opportunity, and so like I said, got to serve as the D3 representative to the SLC. And at the time, the District 3 director was Pat Aronson, who was a phenomenal director. She's a phenomenal athletic trainer and an incredible mentor to me at that time. I think my time on the SLC with Pat specifically showed me that even the most junior people on your team have something to contribute. And Pat took me really seriously, even though I was kind of in the very beginnings, like maybe second semester of my athletic training career. Pat was like, this is Destiny, and she has something to say and she's going to contribute here. And like, we're really happy to have her. And so I learned a lot in that role, and that really gave me the courage to be a little bit brave and like raising my hand and asking the questions that I want to ask. That experience was part of why I ended up going to Temple instead of staying at UNC. At UNC, I had the opportunity to work in the Gefeller Traumatic Brain Injury Research Center, and I love concussion research, and it still is really interesting to me. But looking to that public health, community health vein, I was like, there actually is a big gap in athletic trainers being prepared to care from a public health perspective from patients from all these different various backgrounds. And so um, Temple's athletic training program, and specifically their graduate program, is situated in the College of Public Health. So I knew I would have a lot more resources available to me to ask those questions. So I went to Temple, and instead looked at culture instead of concussions, because that's initially why I looked at Temple, because they also have a lot of concussion research to come out of there. But then, like I said, I saw they have this public health situation for their their program, and I looked at and said cultural competence of athletic training educators. So if we know clinicians need to be able to practice culturally informed and culturally humble care, how are we preparing them to do that, and are the people who are supposed to be preparing them actually able to do that? And so that was kind of my research focus at Temple, and then from there the passion just was lit, and I'm very passionate about, I know it's taken on like legs of its own and meanings of its own, but I'm really passionate about DEI and healthcare and inclusive excellence in healthcare. And so at that time I was wrapping up at Temple and looking for jobs, and my partner at the time lived out in St. Louis, so I was just applying for any of the jobs in the area. And I remember applying with Athletico, and when I was interviewing, they're like, "We have two schools, and we're not going to tell you the name, but like we'll tell you a little bit about the schools, and then you can kind of choose." And so they're like, "We have one school that is, more affluent. They've pretty much have always had a consistent athletic trainer, full-time athletic trainer, so you wouldn't be." Starting from the ground up. But that's what that school looks like. And then we have this other school that has had some inconsistent game day coverage, never has had anyone full time, is a Title I institution. Does either one of those interest you? And I was like, it very clearly one of them interests me. And so I accepted this profile of the school, and then they're like, okay, congratulations, you'll be at East St. Louis. And so I found out I'd be at East St. Louis, and then they immediately said, you'll be at East St. Louis, don't look it up. And so, and,
Don't look it up. Okay, well,
obviously I do look it up, and I mean, you could look it up yourself and see what they say about it in the news. But it is an incredible community that is per capita one of the blackest cities in the country, and they have a lot of specific needs due to some of the history that has happened in that area. And like I said, it just intersected with my passions, and so it was a great place for me to work. But then while I was there, like I said, I started in fall of 2019, and then obviously all of the things that happened in 2020 with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, um, institutions and organizations started taking a greater interest in DEI and greater investment. And Athletico was one of those companies who was like, we are not doing enough. And so they started here at Athletico, we call it ID&E because we think inclusion has to precede in increasing that diversity of your staff or organization. You want to create an inclusive culture so that when you bring
I
people
like
into it,
that. I love
um,
that.
yeah, they're able to thrive. And so we call it ID&E, but it's pretty much the same thing. So we started an ID&E council, and I served there. And then during 2020, that's also when at the time Tori Lindley was president. And so they had these NATA listening sessions, and one of them was about DEI and athletic training. And so Tori was like, if you have any questions or if you like have thoughts about this, please send me an email. And I did. I was like sent Tori like a 2-page document, like a quick little white page. And I was like, I actually have a lot of comments and questions and concerns. And he said, he was like, thank you for sending me this. I'm sharing it with the time. The leader of the chair of EDAC at the time was Keisha Harrell. So he's like, I'm sharing it with Keisha, and we'll be back in touch. And a few weeks later, he circled back and he's like, there are so many comments and so much to do about this that we're creating a task force. And he invited me to serve on the task force. And so the DEIA council that now exists started off as a task force, and that's how I kind of ended up there. Um, yeah, and so I started as, like I said, a member of the task force, and now I'm an at-large member of the council, and I love it.
And I love the way you put it, IDE, inclusion first. I love it. I agree with it. I know it's not a popular viewpoint at the moment,
Yeah,
but those of us that are educated understand
yeah.
it's reality, it's the truth, and let's keep working on it.
Well, and those words mean things because I've had some conversations with professionals in that area, and they're like, do you think we should start calling things, um, do you think we should change the name of things? And I know there are some places where like legally you do have to change the name of things, but I was like, no, these words have meaning, and because like other people are choosing to misconstrue that meaning doesn't mean it changes what it means to us in the work that we do. So like until the government or higher powers like absolutely twist their arm, I'm like, I don't think we should capitulate to that.
Well, they can keep twisting. It's not going to hurt too much to me. So
Right.
keep coming, right? And I swear I'm going to be using inclusion first from now on. I love that, and it's so true.
Thank you.
Um,
Whenever we tell people, they're like, why do you want to say it like that? And then we tell them, like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I guess
it,
that
it
does make
makes
sense.
it makes so much sense. And I tell you what, I mean, Gabe and our dad's an immigrant.
Hmm.
So people look at us and go, "Oh, white kid." I'm like, "No, I'm an albino Arab. I mean, I got mom skin." So everybody looks at me, "Oh, he's Anglo."
Hmm.
A little bit.
A
But
little
then they
bit.
meet my dad and go, "Oh,
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
what's with the accent?" I'm like, "That's my dad." So, inclusion, I hate to say, and we both see it, the tone of my skin has set me up sometimes for, well, success. I
Hmm.
see it. It's horrible. But then they see my dad and go, wait a minute, you're what? I love that. I'm gonna be using it and I'm gonna blame you for it. So thank you.
I'll take the blame. And for me, it just makes sense. And one of the things I tell people in doing this work or trying to convince people to do this work is that like a rising tide lifts all boats. I think a lot of people think of ID&E as a zero sum game and like taking resources from one group or giving resources to one group removes resources from another. But I was like, it actually just gives everyone access to the same thing. I was like, by putting ramps in place of stairs, everyone can still get to the door, but the difference is everyone now can, like folks who are in wheelchairs or other ambulatory devices, they can't use stairs. And so by putting stairs there, like, okay, maybe you did take, or putting a ramp there, okay, maybe you did take stairs away from the people who really love stairs, but you gave everyone access to an entryway, and that's the important piece.
I love that. I love the fact, and we used to joke about this. Someone that comes up with an idea, writes it down, and sends it. We used to call it the Good Idea Committee. That's a great idea. Guess who's in charge now? That's kind of how you got hooked into this, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
You
Which
went
is
from
fine.
you went from voluntold to volunwritten to volun. Yep, you are on the committee.
Yeah. So I feel like I've been doing this not too long, but somewhat of a long time because I have been pretty active in professional service from the beginning. And it like people will ask me, Destiny, like, what is your advice to people who are looking to get involved or people who are just trying to grow their network? And I tell people, I was like, never be afraid of a cold email, never be afraid of reaching out to someone. If you're reading a journal article and even if you don't have questions, but you just really love the article and the work that the authors did, most articles have a corresponding author. Like, reach out to them and just let them know, hey, I love your work. And I feel like that has just gone really far for me. Like I said, being a bit brave and saying, yeah, like I said, I have something to say, or I want to raise my hand here. And people, you would be amazed at the hospitality. And it's funny because I'm like, I'd say you'd be amazed, but it just makes perfect sense knowing what athletic training is and who we are, like the hospitality and the welcomeness that people will have to help you get where you want to be, or if they know an opportunity that matches with something you want to do to put you in the right place with the right people. And so I've just been really lucky.
I love that. And it's true. Sometimes you just have to connect with the right person that'll say, I like what you're about. I like how you think, and I know something you'd be good at. Come on this way. Let's help you out. Let's get you involved. It's always fun when that happens. There is a lot for us to do in our profession. What are some of the things that you would like to see happening?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's actually a really good question.
I'm allowed one an episode, so that's my one.
There has been some talk recently that's come out. I forget exactly the official name for it, but now that athletic trainers are a bit more pervasive in the armed forces and military setting, they are trying to do kind of this collective singular licensing situation. Like I forget exactly what they're calling it, something much more robust than that. But I really like the idea of that, and I think it builds on the sports medicine licensure clarity act that kind of protects athletic trainers as they travel with their teams. I just think one of the things that I don't want to say holds us back as a profession, but there still exists this lack of public awareness. And so I think making it easier for people to be athletic trainers in different states. Like I live in a border state, Missouri and Illinois, and like there's absolutely, like I literally wake up and live in Missouri and I cross the river to work in Illinois every day. And like there's no reciprocity at all between those two states. And so for some people, they're like, oh, okay, like I don't want to have to go through the hassle of like applying for licensure twice, that kind of thing. And so, like I said, making it easier to be an athletic trainer, I think will just make it easy to increase awareness about athletic training, which can expand the profession and like knowledge about us. I would love to see us grow the public health aspect of athletic training and enter engaging with more intercollaboration in community health work. And I think this is something that is also on the rise now. I think NATA might even have like a public health focused task force or affinity group right now that's kind of looking into ways to do that. But like you said, hearing it, you're like, oh, it makes perfect sense. But a lot of people maybe don't end up at that thought on their own. And so, like I said, I think getting athletic trainers from not just a secondary school setting, but the collegiate setting. There's a professional setting, a way to bring professional ATs to intersect and collaborate with their communities that they work into, like I said, to impact public health and community health. I think would be really great for me to see athletic training move toward.
Wow. Just wow. And I couldn't agree more because if there is one profession that really leans itself into the public health in an easy way, it's ours because we're so diverse in our abilities. We're so clinically diverse and we're in athletics. What community doesn't love athletics? And there is always something in the community that needs help. It would be an easy transition to jump right in and really assist at the community level, especially in areas of vulnerable populations and help in the public health sector. I mean,
Yes.
it's a no-brainer. It absolutely is. And I say that I'm very passionate about it. And I didn't realize how passionate I was till 2020 when everything hit the fan with that little virus that came around that we had to deal with. We don't like to say the word because, yeah, I start to tick when that happens. But at our school, we became the point persons. Our staff became in charge of it, and we ran everything for the school, the task force, the testing, the clearance, the isolation, yada yada yada. And it made sense to myself and the rest of our staff. We're there.
Yeah.
We're part of public health. Why don't we, give it a big hug and say, hey, let's start working together. Elevate your knowledge, ignite your curiosity, and compete with the best minds at events hosted by the American Academic Competition Institute. AACI's sports medicine competitions feature practical exercises, challenging quizzes, specialty tests, and keynote speakers that foster knowledge and social engagement in healthcare and sports medicine. Go to aacitest.org for more information on upcoming regional and national competitions. Sign up for the ultimate intellectual showdown.
Yeah. Because even like you said, from that perspective, same thing. Like our school nurses are pretty much half time during the summer, and so yeah, like I was doing all of that stuff. I was scanning the foreheads, keeping
Oh,
track of,
yes.
you
God,
know,
yes. Who's on the 10-day out list? And
right.
yeah.
Like, but even now, we have kids who are going through their PPE and are have certain restrictions, and like the number of cardiologists that I know now, or the number of like specialists I know, and helping them to understand what athletic trainers are, and now we have a greater working relationship, and it's really easy to say, I'm an athletic trainer, but I'm also this intermediary in your care circle, and I can help you establish relationships and collaborate and ease the process of obtaining care with all these specialists. Like that part, it means the world to me because I grew up, like I said, in rural North Carolina, and so specialty care is something like you had to drive 2 hours to get for the most part, and it was just one of those things that was
Damn.
like, right, like that was like really difficult, and so it always like I love being an athletic trainer and providing the care that I can, but even the piece of just making it easier for my athletes to get the care they need from someone else, like that's always a big win for me too.
So you said a word that I love, and it's been coming up more and more in our episodes, collaborate. So we're going to be collaborating and educating at the same time.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's perfect because that's really what we do. If you're a typical athletic trainer at the high school setting, and I'll pick on that because secondary schools, that's my passion. That's where I've been. You're collaborating all the time, whether it's with the health office, the wellness center, the mental health aspect on campus, the fire department when they show up, the paramedics, the ambulances. You are collaborating with the parents,
Yeah,
the coaches, the administration. We collaborate like crazy. We just don't realize it because we just do it. And
right,
then we are constantly educating. And
right.
as you said, that's how we get better. We have to educate others on what we do, who we are, what we can do. Now, I do know you were talking about um, the ability to cross over that one bridge and go from one state to the other and have some reciprocity. I have read somewhere that the NATA is currently working on reciprocity across state lines for many locations. And I presume that would probably be a prime example of a location that would be optimal for them to work on.
Well, yeah, and I think it exists more than people realize. Like I said, here I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I cross over to work in East St. Louis, Illinois. But even where I grew up in North Carolina, I grew up, like I said, in a small town, but I grew up 15 minutes from South Carolina. And so like the same thing could easily happen back home. You live across the river where I grew up in Rayburn, North Carolina, but you work in Marble County, South Carolina. Like it happens more than people realize. And like I said, some states or in some places it's not really that big a deal, but in some places it is. I'll tell you right now, there's like $175 difference between a Missouri license and an Illinois license. And so
Damn.
right. And so, and I mean, but imagine if both those states were really expensive. And so it's like, you're paying, $500 a year or every 2 years for state licenses when you really could be paying this singular fee that makes it a lot more feasible for you to do what you'd like to do and what is best for the communities you live in.
Well, fortunately for me, I don't pay anything for a state license because California doesn't have one. Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh. Yeah, hurts every time I say it. But hey, someday I'll get the chance, hopefully, to pay that bill. So we can hope. We can hope.
Yeah.
You've been going at this for a while, and shocking because I mean, like you said, you became NATA member before you even certified, and whoever came up with that at NC, God bless them.
Yeah.
It is the best thing you can do. Hopefully, a couple of my interns listen to your preceptor now. Do that. Don't just go to the CATA, California Athletic Trainers Association meeting. Don't just go to Far West Athletic Trainer meeting. Become a member. If you're not, do it. I
Yeah.
don't get it. You don't have a say if you're not a member. How can you
Yeah.
make a difference if you're not a member?
It was huge. And I remember Meredith at the time, like I said, requiring us all. We all had to become NATA members and we all had to get NPI numbers. And I remember like being a broke college student, scrounging at like the free little like unaccounted for or unbudgeted money I had to like pay this NATA membership fee. But it really has made all the difference because even now, like I said, as a young professional, like I know, I don't want to say intimately how the NATA works, but I guess intimately, like it, yeah, like I know it pretty well. Been on a couple of committees. I well involved in the network of folks who volunteer there. But I say that to say it really surprises me people who don't understand how it works. In the past couple of years, there's been a big NATA membership push. Numbers just simply haven't recovered since the thing we won't name. Um,
That we
uh,
will not say. Yes.
um, but it's funny because I was talking with a colleague and I was like, yeah, the NATA numbers, like it's not great for NATA, but it's also not great for our state organizations and district organizations. And they're like, those aren't separate things. And I was like, no, like that's why dues vary based on where you live, because it depends on how much of that goes toward your district and that your district then splits that money up to its member states and that kind of thing. I was like, it's almost like the NCAA. But like they didn't understand that, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, how long have you been a member? And I can't remember exactly what they said, but they were a member for a few years and then decided not to renew and were trying to decide if they wanted to come back and start again. And yeah, I think being a member outright for so long has gave me an appreciation for the NATA. And like, do I agree with everything that they always do? No, I don't think you would expect anyone to, but having been a member for so long, I know that being a member is the best way to make a difference. And I understand that it may not be as transparent or obvious, but being a member at the top does affect, like you said, what your local organizations can do for you too.
and I'm going to use an example, and it's the reason I will always be an NATA member. So I'm a little older, hence the gray on the chin. But when I first started out as a young professional, there was an organization out here in California that was calling itself Athletic Trainers, and they were creating a new entity. And I forget what it was called. I found a flyer at somebody had dropped it off in my high school, a little pamphlet, and I opened it up. I looked at it. I'm like, what do you mean you can be an athletic trainer from this organization? This ain't the NATA. This ain't the NATA BOC. What the hell are you talking about? And I start reading. They had different levels of athletic trainers. You too can be an athletic trainer if first level, first aid certified, second level, first aid and CPR certified with a high school diploma, third level, EMT certified. Next level, you have a bachelor's degree in something healthcare related and have a few of those other things. You might be an EMT, you might be first aid CPR certified. Then they kept going up. So each level you had a different healthcare background. And the final one, if you wanted to be the level 7 or whatever it was called, you are a BOC certified athletic trainer. So wait a minute. I'm taking another organization's test,
Right.
becoming certified, and now I can be a member of your organization based out of Arcadia, California, and you've done nothing? Well, word got out real quick because, and I don't know if you know who Andy Paulin is, but former region president and big in the NATA, and a couple other people around that neighborhood went, whoa, 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 who the hell is this, and what are they trying to do profession? Because you show up to a game, here's a high school student calling themselves an athletic trainer through this organization.
Right. It's a huge liability.
Yeah, huge, huge. So they came in and, they came in with their attorneys, took care of business. Next thing you know, those people are gone the way of the dodo. Their history, they're gone. That's it. And the NATA survived. That's the kind of thing that if we don't take care of the NATA, they can't take care of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the legislative piece, because that is so local, but the state organizations to fight the legal battles, they need funding, and like that funding does come a lot of it from the top. And so, but having that conversation with her and like kind of letting her know this is how this works and this is why and that kind of thing. She's like, oh, okay, I never knew that, but like that makes a lot more sense. And she was much more open to renewing her membership. And so I think the NATA has to do a little bit of that legwork itself. I think they have, put themselves behind a wall and they have to work now to kind of bring that down and be a little bit more transparent. But like I said, I am really thankful that since I have been a member for 10 plus years that I know that lesson. I learned that early.
I'll be honest, you don't look like you could have been a member for 10 years. You look like you just got out of college. So that's kind of funny. It's an organization that's valuable to us in our profession. And if you're not a member, this is me on my soapbox, you should be because you have a bigger voice when you're a member. But that's just my opinion.
No, I agree.
This has been a blast so far, but I'd really like you to talk about a couple of your passions, maybe. What is the most passionate thing that comes to mind when you start talking about athletic training? What's the one piece that really gets you going?
I think the one piece that really gets me going is that culturally informed care and that culturally centered care. It is the most important piece to providing care. I think so much of healthcare, not just athletic training, is built in the person to person relationships that you have with your patients and being able to have their trust and have their respect and being able to have a relationship where they feel open telling you things. You hear all the time, I feel like I'm going to be judged by my doctor, or I told my doctor this and then I felt that they were dismissing me. And so I think those soft skills are so important. And so much of that, like I said, is rooted in understanding where your patients are coming from and everything they bring in when they come into your facility. And so that piece is probably what I'm most passionate about and what really gets me going. And then I will put a very small second piece that I'm also a staunch supporter of work-life balance and athletic training, especially as a secondary school AT. So if anyone is ever, especially new grads or newly certified, or like I feel over my head or I feel like I don't have time for myself, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to have those conversations with people about how not to lose yourself in this profession too.
And it's so easy to do. There's a
Yeah.
special little word, two letters only, starts with an N, ends with O,
Yeah.
that once I learned it,
Yeah.
it was a whole new life. Oh my God. But it only took me like 20 years. So I'm not a good person to talk about it. But I'm learning. I'm getting better. And we're trying to help the younger generation, which is important. The young professionals. There we go.
Mm.
I love culturally informed care. I love that quote. But it's true. So many people get to their healthcare providers and they're not shunned, but like you said, they're not taken serious. And that boggles my mind because we're just human. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, what your hair looks like, where you're from, what your level of income in your family is. You're a person in need.
Mhm.
Period. Take care of them. Him or her or whomever is in front of you. Take care of that individual. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it always amazes me when people don't understand or even refuse to believe and actively deny that it matters to patient care and patient outcomes. And that's why, like I said, part of what I do and part of why it's so important to me is continuing to share that piece and that education too, that it does matter to your patients see you, not seeing them, and that matters.
Especially at the high school level. A lot of people just discount how intelligent those young people are. Those teenagers, they're smart as hell. I mean, they can sniff out a phony in a minute, someone that's not taking them serious. They know it and they just tighten up and they're done mentally. And that's so horrible because
Yeah,
you can make such an impact with that young person at that moment of need.
truly. I remember when I very first started and people were like, the kids are like really taken to you and they're like, what is your secret? And I was like, I asked them what they want. And
What a concept.
right, like we don't have uniforms anymore in the district I work at, but you used to have uniforms. I was like, these kids are told when to wake up, where they need to be, what time of the day, what they have to wear, what when they're eating and what they're eating. I was like, a lot of them get to make their first decision of the day when they come to my office. I was like, and just giving them a safe place to ask them, what do you want to do today? Or, how do you feel? That is so empowering and it goes such a long way.
And I'm sure when you ask that question, some of these young people don't know how to answer because
Yeah,
they're so used to being told what to do.
yeah. Yeah, like they're, obviously like I'll have an exercise program for them and they're like, I'm just having a bad day. And I was like, okay, well, close your eyes and pick four of those and like we can shake hands on it today. And like that,
Shake
that's
hands on it. I love it.
and that's so but that really goes a long way just to see them and say you have a choice. And if your choice is that you need to rest and not do all of this today, like that's fine. That's important too.
Mental wellness.
Yeah,
Yeah. Doesn't matter who you are, you need it.
right.
Yeah. Wow. Just wow. Wow. But now, do you think part of that comes in from your second degree with psych? Does that help you, you think, a huge bit? Because I know I've joked for, not much of a joke, I've joked for years that, man, I should go back and get my psych degree and make me a better athletic trainer.
I think it does help a lot, and I think it does make a difference that I have. Like I said, it still is. I don't want to say like just an undergraduate degree. I did do the work, but even like not being like a certified counselor or like a psychologist or psychiatrist, like just having that background and understanding, like I said, how it factors into these other pieces has been really beneficial and helpful.
I mean, I know, and granted, I went to school decades ago. God, I'm old. But basically, we had a minor in psych. We had to take so many psych classes. And at the time, I didn't realize why.
Hmm.
Years into my career, I started to understand, man, this really helps. And I did dabble with that idea, but then got married, then had kids, and yeah, that goes away real quick when you have other responsibilities. But I'm a little jealous of you because I'm sure that makes you a better clinician.
It helps. Like, I'm really thankful for it. And sometimes I hear people are like, "Oh, like I don't know what to do with my senior continuing education credits." So I'm like, maybe you should take like find some courses on this or find some lectures or webinars on this. And folks who have found like the mental health first aid course and that kind of thing and have done it, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's really helpful." Or I'm really excited that the NATA has ATs cares now, and we have that resource for athletic trainers who need mental health services and crisis care. It's really great, and so I'm glad that, like I said, I think it comes with that. It's its own thing, but I also think it comes kind of in that public health, holistic care kind of view and philosophy. And so I'm glad that it's great, gaining more popularity or just general awareness about it.
Couldn't agree more. And I know some of the programs have even started to evolve and create those special classes for the mental wellness and how to deal with patients in that way. A good friend of mine who we will be having on a show in the coming months, Ellen Payne out of, I believe she's at Moravian University,
Mhm.
out, I want to say in the Philadelphia area, if I remember
I
correctly.
feel like, yeah, it's somewhere up there.
I'm close. I know that. She's going to text me after she hears this and rip me for not knowing exactly where. But they created a course that really helps them understand how to deal with their patients in that way. And I was so impressed when I was talking to one of their students via Zoom call about it. It's a no-brainer. Yet there are not a lot of programs doing that. And we need that in our profession.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember if any of our psychology classes were required at UNC, and I don't really think they were. I think, like I said, I did it because I was doing the whole second major, but I don't even think like Psych 101 was a required course. Maybe someone will probably correct me in the
Yeah,
comments or
there's
something. But
always somebody out there that will. I know we had to do 3 or 4 additional courses in my undergrad, but we can't really. That was 30 years ago. So we're going back, and we were not a curriculum-based program. We were the old kinesthetic program where you went out and did a ton of hours and sat down and took the boards, knowing you didn't take all the in-person didactic classes.
mhm.
So that a little bit different back then. You had more leeway, but
But
anyway,
yeah,
I digress.
yeah, but I think it's important, and I think the other thing that's really helping is I think more staffs at this point have sports psychologists on them. Obviously, mostly at the collegiate professional levels, but I think that's been really helpful too to understand the bridge between physical performance and mental health is having, like I said, that collaboration piece. It's another person, another role that we should be collaborating with, and I think that helps.
Wholeheartedly. Here's, you know what? Actually, I just looked it up. So one of the courses they have at Moravian is psychosocial aspects of injury and rehabilitation.
Hmm.
Very appropriate. Yeah, love it. Love it. We're really hitting the gamut right now on different topics. I love this.
I know.
We've really gone all the way around different aspects, different interests. I love it when these episodes are so organic. I know we both have a long day ahead of us, or you're about what, halfway through your day at this point, right?
Probably.
Probably. Probably. I know we were talking about lightning, thunderstorms potentially out your way. How you doing so far? Just rain?
Just rain, a little bit of lightning. Luckily, it's one of those days I don't have any games, so
Very
um,
good. Very good.
practices will come inside, and it should be, fingers crossed, pretty smooth.
There we go. Knock on wood. So none of that those bad storms that people are talking about on the news out your way. You guys been safe?
So far, we did have our tornado warning on Wednesday, and so that was the day we canceled everything after school, so everyone went home, and there wasn't really much for me to do. But yeah, it's really interesting living in the Midwest now. I grew up, like I said, in North Carolina, so I'm very familiar with hurricane season, but tornado season has been something completely new to me. And I, even though I've been in this area now for almost 7 years, I feel like this is the worst it's been and the most frequent. I feel like every week or every other week we're having severe thunderstorms, tornado warnings, tornado watches. So it has been a very interesting spring.
As a Californian, I'll be honest, I haven't left California. I love California. It's a beautiful place when we have great weather, which is 99.9% of the time. It's awesome. We get earthquakes every now and then,
Mm.
and they're usually no big deal. Every now and then you get that big one though. And I'm sitting there, I've got a good friend who just moved out to Tennessee, and we talk to her all the time. And yeah, they've been under tornado watch for a few days. I'm like, I don't know how I would do with that. I just don't know. Just wow. But hopefully everybody stays safe. You have a uneventful day moving
Thank you.
forward. That would be fantastic, right? That'd be a great day.
Same to you.
Now, question for you as we're getting up on the hour, don't want to take too much because I know you got to get ready for the rest of the day.
Sure.
If you could look at a young professional coming up, getting ready to go out into the workforce, what's a little bit of advice you would give them?
I think I would give them that advice earlier. Be brave. It
Ooh,
you
be
may
brave.
and I know that sounds like super generic and like, what do you mean? But believe in yourself, you can do that. I know a lot of early professionals, especially as the degree has transitioned to the entry level masters, there have been some concerns about feelings of preparedness to autonomously practice once certified. But you can do it. You've been given all the tools. Be brave. You belong here. You can survive and thrive here. If you have an idea or question, be brave and raise your hand or ask the person that you think you should ask. And even if that's the wrong person, like I said, we're all really helpful. We'll find you the person that you should be asking your question to. Um, yeah, so believe in yourself and be brave. You can do it.
I love that. And I tell you what, I will be shuffling those letters around. I'm going to be saying IDE now. I love that. I think that is where you start with inclusion. I think that really makes the difference. I
Well,
really
thank you.
do. Yeah, no, I'm going to be quoting you for a while. So, and when they say why, I'm going to say you need to talk to Destiny. She'll tell you why. Because I can't, I'm not as eloquent as many people. So I know to surround myself with good people who are intelligent that make me sound better than I really am. And uh, I would like to thank you for being one of those today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the time.
No, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. Don't stop. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making a difference at that high school, East St. Louis Senior High School. Make that difference. Help those young people discover who they are because that's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. And with that, I want to thank you, Destiny, for being on our show today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend coming up and uneventful, hopefully, day today at East St. Louis
Thank
Senior
you.
High School.
I'm knocking on wood right now, Eli.
Not, oh
So
God, you and me both right here. You can hear it. So you have a great day. Thank you so much for being on Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. Have a great day.
thanks, you too.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Want to make sure you hear every episode? Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to share our podcast with your colleagues, family, and friends. Your support will help more people find and enjoy our content. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is directed by Eli Halleck. It is produced by Gabriel Halleck. Our theme music is by Coma Studios via Pixabay. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the contributors. Want to know more about us? Visit us at wrapituppodcast.com. That's with one P, wrapituppodcast.com. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is a production of Halleck Consulting, LLC.